This is a special edition of Palmyra Network News. My name's Barbara Kauffman, and I, with my associate, Tony Rose, are in the process of editing our book, Gashes on the Face of Heaven. Gashes on the Face of Heaven is a historical novel that is a new twist on the Lincoln assassination. What would you think if someone in the presidential box was an unwitting pawn in John Wilkes Booth's plot to assassinate the president? That's the take we're taking on this book. So what we're doing is we have researched each individual person who was in Lincoln's orbit from 1863 through 1865 in the assassination, and a few more years after that is very interesting. People who were in his orbit immediately, such as Mary Todd Lincoln, his wife, Robert Lincoln, his son, Elizabeth Keckley, very good friend of Mary Lincoln and the White House seamstress, and had her own business, which for a Black free woman was very unusual in those days. And Clara Harris, a young lady who Mary considered her daughter and was in the presidential box that night. On the other side, you have John Wilkes Booth. Everybody knows him. Lewis Powell, or Lewis Payne, whichever way you want to identify him. David Harold, George Atzerodt, and Mary Surratt, first woman ever executed in the U.S. for her crime of assisting in the assassination, if you think she did. Again, very interesting trial, which was actually a tribunal, military tribunal, so it's different from a crime. But we examine these people on a day-to-day basis, what it was like to live in 1863. For instance, Mary Todd Lincoln on July 3rd, 1863, was thrown from her carriage on her way from the Soldiers' Home north of Washington, D.C., as she was going to the White House. She was found, but in those days, you never knew if she had a concussion because they didn't have x-rays or anything, and maybe that's what caused her headaches that she had for the rest of her life. You never know. But they did look at the carriage and saw that the seat had been partially sawed off where the bolts were holding the seat to the carriage. And so the horses ran away and the carriage flipped. Very interesting. Or Clara Harris. We have Clara Harris, not much more is known from her. Her husband, Henry Rathbone, was her stepbrother. Another interesting fact. And it caused a lot of consternation to Lincoln because he thought that they were brother and sister. Nonetheless, they did get married because they were step-brothers and sister. Elizabeth Keckley, Robert Lincoln, they all come together in our book, Gashes on the Face of Heaven. And on our Gashes on the Face of Heaven Facebook page, you get to see some of the day-to-day, because we have posts that show the day-to-day living or fun facts of 1863 on, of all of these characters. You'll get to meet them, know them, and hopefully understand them more, that maybe the good were not always bad, and the bad was not always good, or vice versa. So thanks for viewing. Much more of these interesting little tidbits to come on Palmyra Network News and on our Facebook page, Gashes on the Face of Heaven.